So yeah, I think they're ready to.
Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order at 6:03 and ask our clerk for a roll call, please.
Certainly. Gary Tenenbaum.
Here.
Bernie Grauer.
Here.
Katie Schwerer. Here. Auden Schindler.
Here.
Jennifer Ripple. Mark Kittle. Jackie Whitsitt.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
We would like to thank Grassroots TV for being here and for broadcasting our meeting live. People can watch tonight's meeting live and view previous council meetings online at grassrootstv.org. Our videographers tonight are Ian Soroka and Kyle Pieti. Did I get that? Okay. Thank you for helping us out, guys. Also, tomorrow, Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock, and after every council meeting, there's a mayor's coffee at Starbucks. And if you want to come down to Starbucks, I'm happy to buy your coffee and hear what you have to say. Okay, we're going to kick right into the fun stuff, which is the Students of the Month Awards. We are pleased to acknowledge the Student Citizens of the Month from the Basalt Public Schools. The awards are based on the 6 pillars of character, and tonight's pillar of character is caring, which means to be kind, be compassionate, and show you care, express gratitude, forgive others, help people in need. And so I have already passed out the proclamations, so Auden, do you want to go first?
Is Leedy here? Leedy Sanchez? Nope.
Okay, here, try this one. Jen's not
Yeah,
here.
try this one.
How about Aaron? Areem.
Come on up, Marie.
Come on up. Go see the tall guy right there.
Areem is an excellent example of a caring, considerate student. He's very helpful in the classroom and an excellent role model for other students. Areem can always be counted on to treat people with kindness and respect. Cool.
Yay! Areem? Congratulations. Jerry, do you want to go?
Serene.
Sure, I'll go. Standing up.
Would you like to go?
Grace Garcia.
Woohoo!
Come on up.
Hi, Grace.
We're going to make you say a speech after this.
No, he's not. Don't worry.
Grace is an extremely caring student. She is always willing to help others and works with anyone. She is very genuine and is a true friend. Her teachers love her positive attitude and wonderful smile.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Woo! Do you want to shake these other guys' hands? You're going to make them cry. Okay. All right.
Good job.
Congrats.
The smile gets her out of everything, I'm sure. Bernie, do you want to go?
Yes. Yaskar Salgado.
No? Woo! Whoa! He's got it for you right there.
Yaskar.
Here, you can take this and then go over to see Bernie right there.
Okay, we'll turn around and face everybody.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
The camera's on him.
Yaskar is a sweet, caring student to the teachers and peers who he works with on a regular basis. His strongest character trait associated with caring is his ability to be a strong role model. He takes time, sharing and helping others around him, and most importantly, always doing his best. He welcomes everyone in the classroom and treats everyone with love and respect. When other children need help in the class, he gives them support and shows them the correct way. He shows empathy and concern for others' feelings. He is kind to all his peers in the classroom. It is a joy to have Yaskar in our classroom.
Woo!
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Okay.
So cute.
Dominic Gomez Santana. Dominic Gomez Santana is a 9th grader who openly shows others that he cares about them and their needs. In his classes, Dominic cares for other students around him and cares about his learning and helping others learning with him to be more successful. Dominic works well with others and clearly cares about their success in classes as well as his own academic growth. He knows how to be a caring part of a team as he participates in soccer in the fall as well. This is from Tim McNulty and Brent Hayes. Good job. Yeah, keep it going.
Okay, I have one here. Sydney Picard. Freshman Sydney Picard is a thoughtful student who is aware of other students around her and exercises this support in daily interactions. Sydney is compassionate and always willing to help others around her. She is caring about her academics as well and models an approach that is focused on getting help and being involved. She is thoughtful in her interactions and wants to share a positive attitude that is cheerful and contagious, like your father, sort of. This is from Tim McNulty and Megan Beardo? Megan. Okay, all the students who got recognition this evening are going to also receive a pool pass for the summer. Did we get everybody, by the way? Okay, so if you want to go out into the hallway, we want to get a photo of everybody and give you your pool pass for next summer. Oh, you'll be on a list. You'll be on a list. Okay. Okay.
Good.
I know. We should have maybe let them stay so we have some people.
I know. Can you imagine if they stay at a stay?
No, just this for this one. It's for Torin Yater.
Oh, cool.
Okay, our next proclamation is sort of a special one. It's a proclamation honoring Olympian athletic talent and recognizing an outstanding community member, Torin Yater Wallace. And I'm going to ask Auden to read this once he's finished chewing his fruit, just because he's tall.
Oh, here's the last one.
Oh!
Yay!
The first student we called him.
Does somebody have the
I
proclamation?
have it right here. Come
Okay.
on up. Now, how do you pronounce your name?
What's your name?
Lady, okay. Lady walks into class each morning with a smile on her face, ready to engage with her teachers and peers. Her caring and happy personality is contagious and lights up the whole room. Lady respects her peers and easily integrates herself into play with others. She's often seen assisting the teachers, from picking up classroom toys to reminding them what comes next in our daily schedule. Lady loves to draw and is often working hard in our art area, creating pictures of her family members and the other people she loves in her life. Her empathy towards her classmates is evident by the way she helps and cares for those around her. That's pretty amazing. This is and she gets a pool pass, which you'll, yeah.
Yeah, watch out, those cords are scary. Nice job.
Thank you. Good work.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, shall we continue with the official reader here?
Please.
Torin Yater Wallace, proclamation honoring Olympian athlete talent. Whereas the character of our town depends on the relationship of our citizens, families, friends, and neighbors, and whereas strengthening those bonds lies in the heart of the people, individuals who participate to help create a living, thriving community. These citizens are the unrecognized, unsung heroes of our town. And whereas Torrin Yater Wallace has had to overcome injuries and health struggles to maintain his status as one of the world's top half-pipe skiers. As a two-time Olympian, Torrin has showed his passion for skiing and competition. And whereas Torrin Yater Wallace began winning half-pipe competitions as an early teen and was a contender in half-pipe at the 2014 Olympic Games at Sochi. And Torrin Yater Wallace is truly poetry in motion on skis. He skis with uncommon aggression and grace. When he drops into the half-pipe, rivals stop to watch. Torrin attacked the half-pipe at the 2018 Olympic Games in Pyeongchang with the same passion he brings to all his competitions. And whereas the town of Basalt is most fortunate to have Torrin Yater Wallace as a community member, we are sincerely honored that the town of Basalt and the state of Colorado were well represented by Torrin in the 2018 Olympic Games. And now, therefore, we at the Basalt Town Council recognize that the town of Basalt is a far, far better place due to the athletic prowess and deeds of Torrin Yater Wallace, our hometown champ. Signed for Town Council, 27th day of February 2018.
Thank you, Auden.
He's not here.
All right, on to the actual business at hand. Our first item is the consent agenda. Is there anyone who has a question or wants to pull anything off of the consent agenda? Or is there a motion?
I'd like to, on items 3C, change the wording. It says public hearing and first reading.
Oh.
And so if it'll be second reading, correct?
Yes, second reading,
Okay,
exactly.
great. So just to clarify that.
Thank you.
And otherwise, Mayor, I move that the town council approve the consent agenda items as presented with the minor grammatical correction.
Thank you. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you. Then, did you have something else? Did you want to say something? Okay. The next item is the moment in time when we take public comments on items that are not on the agenda, and any comments about the gratitude that we might have for living in Basalt. Did you have a comment, Tony?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Is it okay if I sit or shall I stand?
You know, just get by a mic wherever you like.
Sit. My feet are killing me, sorry. Been on them all day. Hi, everyone. For the record, my name is Tony Kronberg, and I wanted to say congratulations to Basalt for your sales tax 15% increase that you had during the month of December. From my shopping in Basalt and Willits, I believe that that's just going to keep increasing. So I'd like to thank the town of Basalt very much for making that a reality with the goals that you've been setting. Speaking about the goals, in Ryan's work program that you're going to discuss tonight under Section 8, I'm really thrilled to see that you want to discuss recreation services with Crown Mountain, because I think most of you are aware, I teach swimming up and down the valley. And in fact, just tonight at 4 o'clock, the Aspen City Council had a work session with their recreation board and also the recreation department. And they talked a little bit about Mid-Valley, how there really isn't anything in Mid-Valley. So hopefully Basalt will be able to cooperate with Crown Mountain, and you'll be able to offer some programs that are missing in both areas. But I just wanted to give you kudos for that, but thank you so much, because you will have a lot of support. It depends on how you fund it, but you will have a lot of support. And then the other thing, and this is why I really came to speak to you tonight, is that Basalt is starting to experience the same kind of issues that Aspen and Snowmass are experiencing, especially with the entrance to Basalt. As you know, Aspen is known that there's a lot of congestion and people waiting in line, you can't find a parking space. Well, this morning I came down to Basalt to have breakfast with a friend at 9 o'clock in the morning. There was not one parking space, and I had to bootleg in a private parking lot to join my friend for breakfast. When...
The chief's sitting right there.
I'm sorry?
The chief is sitting right behind you.
It was in his parking lot. But, which is like 4 blocks down.
And one thing that I've noticed as I drive through Basalt, which I do at least 2 to 4 times a day, is that you can't get through Basalt. And you take East River Road down by the police station, West Two Rivers Road, and many times in the morning, cars are backed up from the light all the way to the police station. Then you have trying to come in Highway 82 on your roundabout. And as you know, there was a proposal at one point to build 2 roundabouts at that intersection because of the backups. You are now experiencing some pretty dangerous backups for people trying to get through the roundabout into the highway and then across the highway. One of the kudos is tonight you're going to approve the funding for the underpass. That has helped tremendously because there's no intermix between pedestrians and cars, and things are flowing better. But with all the new development happening, especially with Base Village and Snowmass, some of the projects going on in Aspen, and as you know, Tree Farm was just approved, that the traffic is only going to increase. The other point that concerns me is the intersection right out here. The school in the morning, it's backed up, it's gridlocked between 7-Eleven, the roundabout here, and then going both different places. Down at East Two Rivers Road, you don't have much of a congestion problem there, but there's a lot of accidents, and there's been some fatality accidents down there. And I'm just bringing this forward because, I applaud the Town Council of Basalt because you asked Eagle County to put a moratorium on their building applications until they could figure out what the impacts are of the new development coming in and how that aligned with their master plan, their land use regulations, and the developer impacts and the developer mitigations for that development that they're bringing forward. I would like to request that the Town Council think about putting a moratorium on your land use applications for the purpose of making sure that your land use code, your master plan, your developer impacts, and their mitigation are all in alignment. Because once a project comes before you and it gets approved, then you don't have anything to stand on. So I just wanted to bring that forward. And as you know, Aspen had a moratorium and it did great. I mean, it was really wonderful, the new projects that are coming in. Just today or last night, they approved higher mitigation for affordable housing. They couldn't have done that when the applications were coming forward.
Right. Thank you,
But
Tony.
anyway, thank you so much for everything, and looking forward to a swimming pool down there.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a comment for items not on the agenda? Mark?
Hi, I'm Mark Kwasinski. Each of you have received an offer to purchase the RFCDC parcel from the champions of public access for the Basalt River Park. It's for $3.1 million, and the terms of the offer, if you will recall, the ETC survey that was compiled before the at the initiation of the Our Town process, which I say is the real opinion of the town of Basalt, you'll see the last 2 pages, and this proposal meets 12 out of the 13 priorities that were identified as the most important priorities. It doesn't have a parking garage. The square footage ranges between 32,000 and 38,000 square feet. And it also, it provides a mix of commercial. If you'll see, if you look at the plat up here, there's 2 parcels that are closest on the upriver side. That would be zoned for 9,000 square feet of commercial with smaller buildings, lots of light. It would provide very lively mix of locally owned businesses for that. The next parcel down, parcel 3, the town could acquire that to put town offices on that. It could become art base. It could become the Chamber of Commerce. That is being made available to the town as well. And on the 4th parcel, there is 13,500 square feet of residential. This proposal, you'll notice that there's parking spaces all aligned on Two Rivers Road. The residential component of this has parking underneath with some parking garages. The commercial is anticipated to create approximately 30 spaces for what is being proposed here. That's based on 300 square feet per parking space. This proposal would provide an additional about 20 to 30 spaces above and beyond the impact of the proposal. So we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. I've been pleading with the RFCDC and the town to extend a public process so this could be done, because millions of our tax dollars, my money, all of our tax money has been invested in this parcel, and we should have a competitive process to allow other parties, in addition to champions of public access for the river park, to make proposals on this. Now this is a last ditch effort, because, but now you can see what is possible here. Okay? You can go through and you can spend another couple of years messing around and somebody saying, I don't have enough development rights, you know, and give us more. We need a parking garage. We want, or you can, you can really seriously open it up and sincerely look at this proposal. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, Mayor and Council reports and comments.
Basalt is an inclusive, sustainable mountain community that boasts both historic charm and progressive vision. It is an engaging place to live, work, and play, while offering an abundance of creative, professional, educational, and recreational outlets.
Thank you, Jennifer. Other council?
My one comment is trying to figure out how the council is going to be able to comment on this land use planning with Eagle County. It just, I don't think I really understand the process that Eagle County has laid out. I really don't understand where it's going to and how it's going to then come back to the town to really see if we can help meld. So you don't have to answer it all now,
right,
but it would be great if we could all just get a little more understanding, because I know Jackie's been really involved with it, and I really appreciate seeing all that stuff, but I don't understand it from council and how, I mean, I know, Susan, you've been sending some emails about meetings here and there, but how does their whole process look on a map and stuff like that? And I don't have it, and maybe I should just look at their website, but I don't know if they have it laid out on their website.
Let's bring that back,
Yep.
because it's been, I mean, I go, and it didn't look like to me that there was a very cohesive plan. It was like open house format. So let's have Susan work with Eagle County and actually try to get a sort of a map of how it's going to go a little bit better than what it is.
Well, I think the most important, without, because I know this isn't the real time, but I think the two most important pieces are that at this March 1st meeting, the P&Z is going to meet with the regional, the Roaring Fork Regional Planning Commission, and it's going to be like a roundtable at the floor. The P&Z's made comments, and in the packet that I, emailed you, and you can go on the P&Z agenda too, and I actually have a couple copies I can leave you with. They've made particular comments. Then on the 15th, which is like 2 days after your next meeting, that's when they're going to talk about the Highway 82 corridor area. So I don't know if Brian wants to add anything, but time is kind of marching through. Their last meeting that they have scheduled currently is like the April 19th meeting for making any amendments to the plan.
Okay.
And so it doesn't go to the county commission because they're not a charter government like ours does.
And if I could just throw one more thing in, and then we'll go to Jennifer. One of the things that has happened is that they have changed their meeting start time from 4 to 5:30, so that theoretically people on council could be there. And I think that Pam always notices it so that we can be there. And maybe Susan and I and Ryan can sort of put our heads together a little bit more to see if we can get a more clear agenda for these meetings, because it does just, in the date timeline, it just says the discussion is going to be about the Missouri Heights.
Yeah, so
So it
that's why I
just
didn't
doesn't, it's not
understand.
helpful. It's not
Okay.
helpful. Jennifer?
So on that stream of thought, I was interested in putting forth a consolidated town council statement of direction, points that we would like to have as us together. Rather than, it is very helpful for each of us to go and individually speak, but also there is, it shows that we are following the progress and have opinions that we'd like heard. That do affect the town of Basalt. And I recognize that our next meeting is tentatively a fire mitigation work session, but maybe we could do a half hour for a group letter brainstorm for something to present to Eagle County.
That's a good idea. Others? Bernie?
I just wonder if, Susan, if you might remind me of where we are in the revision of the master plan.
Well, I think that Ryan's going to talk more about that when we talk about the work program.
Okay.
My only thing is kind of circles around what Tony brought up a little bit, and that is the parking situation downtown. I think we're potentially hurting our businesses down here, because even though it's wonderful that we have 100 more workers in the downtown, I'm wondering if, in fact, we should be paying more attention to our time parking, because if we've got workers parking in the core, it makes it super hard for somebody to come downtown and spend money. So if in fact we already have time parking, which I thought we did, what are we doing about that? Because it's
We've got
problematic.
2-hour parking in a lot of places downtown.
So maybe we could just, could you bring back a report of, is that happening? If so, what does it look like?
Sure.
Just because I know that this can't be all customers. I don't think it is. It's the same in every town in the universe, that it's the workers.
And do we not have a new, it's not a school, a community resource officer? Is that a?
We
new-
do, and we've been enforcing parking as, this winter, Chief and I have had, discussions about it, because we've heard from citizens getting ticketed and things like that. But I'm not sure what their, Nino, who is that officer, will be, focusing on those things. And if we want to, focus harder in the downtown area, we can certainly do that as well. And so.
Okay, anybody else? Here-
I want to give
Yeah.
kudos to the new speed signs on the Frying Pan Road. It's really raised awareness for those that drive along there. I do it, and I've noticed it. So good job, everyone.
I actually had another one that I have been meaning to just bring up to staff outside of the meeting, but since I keep forgetting, I'll just bring it up now. At the BRT station by the movie theater, where there's an underpass there, and you can come across, and then when you start on foot as a pedestrian, start heading towards City Market, the sidewalk runs out, and you have to cross over to get to the City Market side. There is nothing there to protect pedestrians, and they've run out of sidewalk. And I understood that there used to be a flashing light or something there, and that is, I have seen people struggling to get across the, do you know what I'm talking about?
There's a flashing light.
That's down valley.
Right next to the stop.
That's right
there is,
at the
which
bus
is
stop.
further down.
If you start walking towards City Market, and you're on the highway side of the street, because that's where the sidewalk
Yes,
is,
that's right.
that ends abruptly.
Yes.
And there's nothing to safely help you get across the
There's no
street.
movie there. I thought there was.
I thought there was too.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I thought there were two. I
if
thought there was
some-
one at each. Yeah.
if somebody could take a look at that, that's bothers me every time I drive through there. Okay, managers report.
Well, the only thing I have for managers report, because we're going to be talking a lot about
Right.
our work that's cut out for us this year. But as another reminder, so I got an email today about the CML training on March 21st. And so just to be thinking about that, we are coming up to a deadline on that where we'll get a discount. So I'll probably bug you guys to get a count on who thinks they might be able to attend, but it is from 8:30 to 4:30, so it's a full day.
Okay.
And I think it's $100 or so per attendee, so.
Could we just shoot that out in an email one more time?
I will,
I think
yeah.
I already have said yes, but
Yes. I think I have you and Bernie confirmed.
it'd be super valuable if we could do something like this, especially for those of us who are for sure gonna be here.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Yep.
Thanks, Ryan.
Sure.
Okay, next item under council actions is the first reading of Ordinance 3 of 2018, an ordinance of the town authorizing borrowing on a line of credit for the purpose of purchasing affordable housing for the town. And,
You want to take it?
So Tag, this is
Yeah.
me. So this is a renewal of the existing line of credit that we have. We've had several conversations with our town attorney and with Alpine Bank's town attorney. And the original line of credit was at 2.8 million. And we currently have 1.8 out, and so we will drop that note. We do have a little bit of, we're gonna change a couple of dates, but we'll do that between now and then as far as interest is concerned between the second reading. So it will just be a small correction by the time we read have the second reading of the same ordinance. So this is an existing, it's just a table requirement because we cannot do multiple year financing. And we make the debt service with the revenues from the affordable housing.
okay. Bernie?
So in other words, this is a pool of money that finances the affordable housing units that Basalt owns, and we make profit on the rents that we collect.
Yes, anything that we have left, so what we have is our revenues, and then last year we had some higher expenses. Some of the units needed, there was a roof that went on the BC building, but we take the differential between those, and that's what we do for our line of credit reduction. And so that will bring it down, and that's what we're working on right now is we need to adjust those dates for our interest. Because with second reading, it won't be until the April 5th for the final date, and so that will be a little tweak.
But the rents make it basically self-sustaining. Okay.
It doesn't, none of this comes out of the general fund.
Okay.
Do you have anything, Katie? I guess my only one other question that wasn't totally clear in here is, it says amount requested 1.8 million. Is it just always 1.8 million, or does it get smaller and bigger every year?
It will get smaller. We originally had 2.8. We had left it at 2.4, not knowing about that second unit over at Willits last year. I think we have established that we paid for the first one. We'll still close on the second, but we're not exchanging cash for that. And so if something came up and we had another property that was, great, or a foreclosure that we just couldn't pass up, we would have to come back to council and asked to do an additional appropriation. But at this point, there's not anything out there, so we're gonna go ahead and reduce it down to the outstanding balance.
I guess the one thing I would ask is that in this Reader's Digest condensed version, a little less condensed, because I had some people ask me, and I just had no idea, I had no memory, because, it's
Once
an
a year,
annual thing.
Right.
So if you could maybe just flesh that out a little bit in future docs, would be helpful for those of us who aren't always reading this stuff ongoing. Anybody else? Okay, and so I assume all we need is a motion? If there's no more questions?
Mayor, I move that the town council approve ordinance number 3, series of 2018 on first reading and set the public hearing and second reading for March 13th, 2018.
Second.
I am going to stop here because we've kind of been making a habit of just asking if there's public comment on the items that we talk about. Is there anybody that has any public comment regarding this? Okay, hearing none. Had a first and a second. Further discussion on council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent. And the next one is the first reading of Ordinance 4, an ordinance of the town authorizing borrowing on a line of credit for the purpose of constructing an underpass at Basalt Avenue for the town of Basalt. Judy.
Okay, and so this is very similar. Last year we finished the underpass right as school was opening, and we finally advanced that line of credit. It was always part of the plan, but we did $2 million, and we're gonna pay for that out of open space and trails funds over a 3-year period. Very similar, this is a Tabor disclosure because although we didn't take the money until this last summer, you cannot do multiple year loans. So this is a $2 million line of credit, and we will make a $650,000 debt reduction using post funds this year.
Okay, and that happens this month?
The
Or when?
$650,000, it doesn't state when, so we'll watch our sales tax, and we'll do it when we have, watch cash flow.
So it doesn't matter when?
Well, it does, I don't wanna pay more interest than I have to, but.
Right. Okay, so I'll ask again if there's anybody in the public that has any comments regarding this item. Okay, hearing none, is there any more questions from council or a motion?
Mayor, I move that the town council approve ordinance number 4, series of 218 on first reading and set the public hearing and second reading for March 13th, 2018.
Thanks, Bernie.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Well, what?
Okay. Okay, the next item is the Vale appointment recommendations for citizen appointments, and that is Pam and Chief Knott. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Do you want to come up, Greg, or is this a? Okay. If you have anything to say at all, you probably should get on a mic. Thank you. Pam, are you taking the lead on this one?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Or Greg can either.
But you should move the mic toward you.
Thank you. So Greg had wanted to sort of reinvigorate the Vale board, I believe, and we advertised and received 4 applications from the public, and we submitted a proposal to council on how to figure out who should sit on the citizen seats. And we had a subcommittee of 3 council members, and I believe it was Katie and Bernie and Jen, and they reviewed the applications and ranked their choices, and these were the top 2 citizens that came to the top of the recommendation for appointment to the Vale Board.
Maybe we could just hear a spokesperson from that crew just to say why these were picked.
I will.
Okay.
So reading through everyone's statements, there were letters of intent that were provided to us, and there were many, everyone was well-suited for volunteering their time. And the choices that I made, I felt were those who were very specific for the position, as well as are not involved in many other committees. So I just want to ensure that there's a selection, a variety of citizens that are involved in our committees. And I greatly appreciate their willingness to invest their personal time into serving our community.
Thanks, Jen. And Greg or Pam, do one of you want to just briefly say what this board is?
So the Vale Board is the Victims Assistance Law Enforcement Board to help individuals, victims of crime, with monetary contributions out of our 25% Vale surcharge on citations and court fines. So an example is an individual is a victim of a crime. A deductible could be $1,000. They can come to the Vale Board and ask for monetary assistance to help pay that deductible on like a vehicle accident or something along those lines.
Okay. I knew that, but I thought it was good. Yeah, Bernie?
Do you know how much we have in the fund currently?
I don't off the top of my head.
28,000 is what's in that fund.
Do victims of crimes automatically get informed about the availability of this Vale assistance?
We're going to start doing that. Yes.
Okay.
It hasn't been done in the past, and prior to my arrival, it wasn't that way. But I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to, help out victims of
And
crimes.
we're going to set up some mechanisms if they get other reimbursements that we're not double reimbursing them.
Yeah, they'll have to submit applications and provide documentation of that financial loss and what it'll be going towards, along with any other payments from, like, say, insurance.
Good.
Okay.
In full
Yes.
circle, our parking enforcement, these are part of the funds, those are part of the fees that create this fund, correct?
I don't know, is it for
Yes.
parking tickets too?
Yeah, so any municipal fine or municipal court imposed fine, there's a 25% surcharge on that fine.
Great.
And if you remember when we did our fine schedules, a lot of those fines were reduced for the veil surcharge and the training fund so that they weren't so astronomical. So it does come out of those.
Okay,
So, Mayor, I move that the town council appoint Ann Stevenson and Will Fisher as the citizen members of the Vale Board.
Second.
Further discussion? My only thing is to say that I've known Ann Stevenson for 30 years, and she has police background and is just a fine, upstanding citizen, and I'm sure that Will Fisher is too.
I know him, he's great.
Thank you.
Father
Okay,
Will.
all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
And just for clarification
Yes.
for me, so I have it all straight, you're serving on the Vail Board as a council rep, and is it Gary that is serving? Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thanks for all
Thank
the
you,
work.
Chief. Okay, items for council consideration, further are the 2018 work plan, and I know that Brian's been working really hard on this. We booted it up when Ryan first got here, but it needs some tweaking, I think, and I have been telling Ryan that I sure would like to see some priorities on the wall or something so we don't wander around aimlessly in 2018. So Ryan's been working on this, and I'll just let him take it.
Great, thank you, Mayor. So as Jackie made mention, recently we had a discussion about, what's going on with the work program, and can we bring it back to council and maybe do some priorities within it. It was obviously a big list of items in there. And what I did from the handout that you all have was, it looks like it copied more blue and light yellow. But those blue items that are highlighted are items that we've either actively been working on or are complete. And the yellow items are highlighted for things that I think we can, begin working on and likely accomplish in 2018. And what I think they do is essentially lay the groundwork just to establish better communication, expectations, and outcome between town council, staff, and then ultimately the public, who ideally benefits from a high-functioning government. And so as I made mention in my memo, the different tasks that are in here, some of them are more policy-oriented, and some of them are more project-oriented. And so there's 10 that I've highlighted, and the 10 is sort of on purpose. The mayor has made mention of her dream to have a list of 10, tasks that we could display prominently so that we could, keep an eye on them and begin to check them off as we finish them. And I think that's something we could do and would just keep us all working in the same direction. So. The other thing that I would say too is, we will, as soon as, we get feedback from you all, we would start on them and have already began thinking about them or have started on them at the staff level. But I think it's important that if there's a new project or something different, that we would bring that back to the entire council for discussion, only because if staff's going to start down the road on something, we may be 60% complete, and then if we get a new project that seems interesting, I'd hate to not finish something just for sake of doing something that seems more apropos for that day. So I think we can certainly talk through that, and having them up there displayed prominently I think would help with that as well. So If you would allow me, I'll just go through a couple of them for you, the top 10 that I had highlighted. So the first is an update to the capital improvements plan. Back in the fall of 2000 and let's see, where are we? 16, I believe it was. You all adopted a 5-year capital improvements plan. So we're about 2 years into that. So I'd like to, before we start budget season this year, bring that back in front of you. Make sure we, capture the projects that we think are still, or whether they are still a priority for the next few years, and basically retool it and get some new figures on it so that we can make sure that when we get into budget season, there are things that we can actually accomplish within a year, both from a budgetary standpoint, but also from a staff, availability standpoint too. So we would get to work on that. Town purchasing policy, I've had a chance to speak with a few of you about that. That's also a policy that was developed in the fall of 2016. And in discussion, now that we've had it in place with town staff for about a year and a half, I think there's some tweaks that we can make to it that would basically right-size it for the town of Basalt. It was modeled after the town of Aspen's purchasing policy, and I think there's a lot of good content in there. But they're also, more robust as far as their staff and really being able to go after procurements. And so one of the things that I highlighted as an example in there was the ability to still follow public processes, but be able to piggyback on public processes that area governments have gone through. So for example, purchase of vehicles or purchase of equipment and things like that, that we're small, and so we can't necessarily get the benefit of bulk purchasing, but when we team up with others, we can often get some advantage there. And so, that's something I'd like to bring back to you all, and probably do so in the near term before we get too far down in budget process. Mid-Valley Comp Plan, that's something we're actively engaged in. They have heard, to your point earlier about having a council letter. We have sent them updates from the Planning Commission, and so we can certainly do it for the council. My suggestion on that is we probably review what we've sent from the Planning Commission and see if we align with that. We don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel, but any new contributions that we have, we certainly add. And the good news is that the town has been involved from the start of this process, and in fact is doing a joint meeting between our Planning Commission and that Mid-Valley Planning group. So we'll bring that back at a future meeting in the near term, and of course staff will stay very involved with that. The other is what I called consolidation or establishment of a citizen participation program. I think that we've had discussions both from a staff level and from council level that our citizen groups that we have, like the Post Committee or the Basalt Affordable Housing, those are great resources for us, but there's perhaps room for improvement with regard to communication and just sort of how we're laying out expectations for what we want them to do and the kind of feedback they should get back to council. And I think that in discussions now that I've had with members of each of those groups, they seem to be supportive of that notion. And so, we could just formalize that a little better with you. And I think I've also heard from some of you that maybe a reminder or refresher on how did these get established and what are their rules of performance or how many people are on it and what are their the mission that they're supposed to carry out. And so we could come and do a work session at some point in time to kick that off and just kind of do a re-education on where we are with all of those. The next is Whitewater Park. So that's one that we have budgeted for this year. The county is underway now with making improvements to the features in stream, and the out of stream features are still a work in progress from a design standpoint. So the county has gone back and had some stakeholder meetings. They've hired a firm to do some drafting of new proposals, and then, if you recall, we also have a subgroup of this council and the county commissioners that will get together and offer their opinions on where they think the planning efforts are, and obviously funding always comes with that, but that's one that's underway, so I think should remain a priority. The CDC parcel is also highlighted in here. We've heard in the last week that parcel is under contract, and so that while we will be more responding in a lot of ways to what gets turned into us in the way of an application, because we have interest in adjacent land in the town park there, and potentially some interest in acquiring more on the corner. I think that's just something that we need to be actively involved in and make sure we're staying on top of, so we get the best result for the town. And then the next is the purchase of Public Works facility. I did hear from a few of you who've had a chance to go out and explore our existing facilities. Our current facility was built when the town of Basalt, there wasn't a Willits at that time, and so we were mostly centered over in this part of the town, and we've just grown. So we've sort of been able to find places temporarily to store equipment. Crown Mountain is one, but we did get word in discussion I had with some of their staff that the tear down of some of those buildings is imminent, and so we'll have to find a home. We currently occupy, I believe it's 4 bays over there. We also keep equipment over at our the old Eagle County shop that has approximately 4 bays as well, and it would be great to be able to consolidate ourselves in one location. In the problem also with both that the latter 2 facilities I just described is the roofs leak and the buildings just simply aren't in a condition, especially when we're housing expensive equipment in those. And so there was a lot of work done to identify pieces of land before I got here, and I've picked that up and been working with Boyd and have been doing some walkthroughs on potential properties that we could look at in the future. The good news with those is, as far as cash flow, I'm going to reach out to Department of Local Affairs and just see what their grants look like, and we could possibly come up with some cash match simply by divesting ourselves of those properties that we would no longer be using, should that make sense for the town. And we would offer sort of a full report on that. We have had an appraisal done on our existing shop that's 2 years old now, and it came in just shy of $1 million. So we've had two years of market gain, I would say, in the valley that it could be worth more than that at this point in time. So it's real money that we could potentially be looking at to help seed that project. And then of course we'd be working in earnest. All of staff has been busy, and you've seen those in some of my reports recently, just trying to get out and bid projects, those that we have budgeted for this year, and so that's taking up a fair amount of time, just trying to make sure we hit the season right and can get those completed. So a few examples of those: the roundabout at Willits, the East Valley Road traffic calming, Two Rivers Road on both sides, one down toward the Whitewater Park, and then of course that associated with the building of the new help me, the River
Center.
River Center. So those are the 10 that I've identified in here. What is not included in here, and I had brought this up to you before, are two more, and one is a big project, and that's the master plan. We did not budget for the master plan specifically this year, but as I mentioned to you, in a previous council meeting, we do have money set aside for projects that we could potentially reprogram. So we had some consultant money in the planning budget, and then in my budget that was earmarked for some strategic planning. And so we could combine those and get started on a master plan. I think the idea of starting and completing a master plan in this calendar year is probably a little aggressive, but you know, Susan and I talked about a couple ideas of things that we could do. Particularly, you know, I think I've heard from several of you about visioning and establishing values, and perhaps turning out a survey that would collect data that could, you know, get us a decent way down the road, and then look to continue that effort in 2019. And then the last one was the IGA with Eagle County with regard to land use review. And, you know, there had been some back and forth between their legal counsel and ours, and that's in our court at the moment. But the mayor and I did meet with Jill Ryan, one of the county commissioners, and decided that we would see, since we do have a light at the end of the tunnel with regard to their master plan update, where the controls as far as us being a review agency and or limitations on density, things like that, and then whatever we're not satisfied with, we could propose in the IGA for amendments or additions. And so that one, you know, I don't think adding that on and having an 11th would be too arduous. So with that, that's the list of items. So it's obviously a lot, but you know, I think we can make a nice dent in it.
Well, I would just like to hear from all of council, but one of the things I was thinking as you were rolling through this is, if next time we see this, when we get it boiled down a little bit, if we could associate resources required, if there are resources required, and whether it's budgeted or not already. And if it's not, how are we going to shuffle the resources? So I'm assuming you at least looked at this right now to say, do you agree with the 10, and I would say including the master plan and IGA, it seems really odd to me that we'd have the county's master plan and not ours on our top 10, but Jen, did you want to go first?
Just looking back in history, it was really useful to see from our council retreat this list created from that, and for us to be it's a touchstone, and for us to continue that. So thank you, kudos. This is progress in this room from this seat as I see it. So this is fantastic. I am in agreement with all of them. The ones that I the Whitewater Park, some of the preliminary plans that I've seen are amazing. And I just want to build the psych factor for all of us here sitting at this table. What Pitkin County has in the planning process and what the plans look like, it's incredible, and it's going to be an amazing asset, and they're investing some serious resources into this, and I'm just so grateful for that partnership. So I'm very excited for our partnership to continue, and that we have money budgeted for that within this year from post funds, and I look forward to continuing that project. Think Boulder Gardens, think there's been images of native plant gardens with walking trails, just really phenomenal experiences for our visitors and our citizens. Also on there, high on the list for me if there was anything that I was going to drop, you know, if we wanted to keep it at 11 and we wanted to fit IGA and master plan in there, training and learning opportunities during council work sessions, it's something that we can strive towards, but I gotta say that the master plan and the IGA are a stronger priority from my perspective. With new counselors coming on board, I feel that it is, from having been a greenhorn and just being dropped into the race running with not much training, that was seriously detrimental. And I hope that we have a town manager that is going to shepherd and create those educational opportunities. And then the only other statement that's just a sideline is the RFCDC and the River Park. In some of our discussions previously, some counselors have commented that they feel that the Basalt River Park is not a year-round entity, and I just want to reflect that it very much is, and it is vibrant. There are so many people out there walking every single day, sitting on the benches, playing Frisbee. With snow, I saw cross-country tracks out there this last weekend. So we're getting there, we're doing it, and I'm really proud of us as a group. And thank you so much for having this list.
Anybody else want to weigh in? Bernie?
I believe that examining our affordable housing program, looking at it compared to the 214 housing conditions report, quantifying staff costs, potential purchasers, tenants, enforcement, that this is at least equal to establishing a consolidation of the citizens group, and is something that should be in our top 10 things that we get done in any given year. So,
Bernie, where is that?
it's
Oh, I see, I got it, I got it.
affordable housing program. In other words, we get a report card. We have goals and vision, and then we have a report card. How are we actually doing?
Yeah.
And I would say that's one of the top 10 that we should have in almost every year, certainly this year.
A status report.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, sure.
You know, I agree with Bernie, but the way I look at it is, we have a lot of affordable housing that just came online, and we have a lot of affordable housing about to come online. And we need to find a way to assess how that's impacting our needs. And so I think that's kind of where Bernie was going, was not trying to do everything in this affordable housing program piece, but to try to understand how we're doing, because I think we've done a very good job, and the community has done a really good job of bringing a lot of affordable housing online. And I think we need to be able to show how it's impacting the actual need of this Mid-Valley area. So I do believe that's got to be part of this, because as that piece opens and all the Willett stuff got online, how are we doing? So some type of like health report on that. And, you know, I think the reality is right now, I mean, I have not heard from staff that they cannot manage these units. I don't think it's sustainable in the future, but trying to figure that out this year would be a little much. But to at least get a report on how we're doing, a health report, that would be, I'd like, that's why I just wanted to hit on that. I think it's a seriously important piece of the puzzle.
And the health report is something that Bach, when Eagle County was going through the hearing proceedings of Tree Farm, we're really close. We have a very, we have the figures figured out as of, what was that, 6 months ago? So I think it's very reasonable.
Is that for housing that isn't just owned by the town, but is within Basalt?
It included the whole, it was RE1 school, it was within the school district, and
Okay.
the map that we created, and I think that there were, on the map, there were town-owned and within the county, et cetera. It was broken down into various scenarios, so,
And I think we need that whole picture,
yeah.
actually.
Let's bring it
To know
back.
if we're meeting our goals or getting close. Auden?
It's a great list, daunting, but I would love to look at it with, it seems pretty tactical, and I'd like to just layer on a level of strategy. I know that we've talked about strategic planning once we're past the elections, but for example, say the master plan, that's I think a really high priority for me, and I'd love it to be not, we do it and it's like, this should be this should be that, but we look at it from a perspective of, well, what are we gonna do about downtown parking? What's the vision? You know, like layer in a kind of aggressive, this is what we envision for the town in the next decade, and if we were gonna do parking, here's where it would go and so forth. Including things like downtown improvements, using post money, how do we make the town more walkable? These things we've talked about. So instead of having, you know, the improvement plans that we've talked about and that are in the capital improvement plan, I want us to have a bigger vision. You know, even if we can't do it, we want the trail to go here and we want these sidewalks improved and so forth, and a little more strategy there. And I think similarly, we could take each of these topics and be a little more strategic. So public works, that's a big, hairy issue. And it's 3 locations that would be consolidated into one. We might have to sell some stuff, but what if we did it, you know, in a very creative way where we went big and got her done. I mean, it is, again, I've toured these areas and they're desperate. Like the Eagle County facility has pigeons in the roof. The other place doesn't even have a roof to speak of. So what if we thought about that as a, you know, this is a needed thing that's very pressing. We have to finance it somehow, but we have this valuable property right in town we could sell. And that, if we think about that in a bigger picture way, it bears on other topics. For example, what we discussed, well, that parcel on Sopris Drive that houses tractors and stuff, that could be residential. Maybe that's a way to think about staff housing. So, and that's the other piece that I wanted to bring up, which is, to me, this is a really pressing issue for us. We've got affordable housing, it works to some extent, but I really want to talk about your housing if you want it, Greg's housing. You know, how do we get, I've said this before, I want you to live in town. I want the police chief to live in town. I want, as you know, and I want to think about this in a way that we really move it forward, instead of you 5 years from now being, you know, hey, it's gonna, one day we'll figure this out. I think it's a super high priority, but I think it could tie into some of these other things we're looking at. So I look forward to that strategic planning piece where we all, you know, come together and express that vision, and then tie it into this tactical implementation.
If I could just, I'm just going to follow up a little bit with what Auden is saying. I think what happens if you don't do this strategic look at this thing first, this is really a planning commission job. And not to say that, and maybe it should be a joint, at least initially a joint conversation, because there's some real talent on our planning commission, and I wouldn't want to leave that out, but I think to just have tasks and not have it under a strategic umbrella, I think we're going to be sorry, because you do a lot of work and you spend a lot of money on a comp plan or a master plan, and at the end, you may not have what you want, kind of like what happened with Eagle County. They did not end up with what any of us wanted. So I would just underscore what Auden is saying in every piece of this, that it should be more strategic and less tasky.
So just for me to understand a little better on what you are both saying, are you suggesting then that we do put, because the strategic plan is, I have that listed on there, and in trying to find capacity within the budget for consulting, it seemed like the master plan, through feedback from you all, was sort of rising to the top for a priority. And so I don't know that both of those would be accomplishable from a budgetary standpoint. We could look at doing a supplemental
No, I won't
appropriation,
speak for Auden, but for me, I don't mean a real strategic plan like we did at AT&T. I don't mean that. I'm talking about a strategic approach to the beginning of the master plan. I think it's, for me, it's part of the master planning process. So, and I don't know what.
Yeah, I guess I'm not looking at some massive process, but what I'm saying is let's overlay a strategy vision onto all these tasks. And I think that this isn't a, maybe this is after the election, we have a strategic planning meeting and we include P&Z. But I think the council, as is made up now and as it's going to be made up, is capable of some envisioning that is, ties to work already done by P&Z and in our town planning process, and just overlays, here's where we're headed. So it's both, it's what we ought to be doing, and then it's a kind of a signal to the community.
Well, and adding to that, I mean, what I look at that as a roadmap of how you wanna really complete this master planning process.
Yes.
It's really laying out exactly how we're going to do it and the vision involved in all that, because downtown parking, affordable housing, public works facility,
Right.
you're dealing with such large issues, but if you make a roadmap and a process map, I think that would clarify it to the community of what we're really looking at. Because what I've heard, campaigning now, is what do you mean by master plan update? Are you gonna just do, what does that mean? And trying to have people understand what that truly means is gonna be critically important going forward, because we're gonna need the public to be heavily involved with this master planning process. Having the, P&Z is supposed to be running these master planning processes, and that's the way, a lot of, like, obviously, Eagle County's doing it. We're statutory, we're home rule, so we could run it through town council. But we need to figure that out, and we've got to lay it out to show what the P&Z's role in this, what the council's role in this will be, and what the community's role in this will be. And then I really believe that if we show them the vision of what we're looking at, I think the community could get behind it and really be an integral part of the conversation. I don't think we did not do that in 2006, 2007 as well. But in the end, it was a different time. It was a difficult time, where now we have Eagle County doing theirs at the same time we're doing ours. So we have an opportunity.
And this is maybe a good time for you to explain, kind of as you have to me, that they're, the folks that you ran into at the city managers conference from Larimer County, who were talking about the fact that we do have the statutory authority to do a joint plan. A town and the county can do a joint plan. And so if you hear otherwise, it's BS. So, and to really push that a little bit more, but we need to push it fast, because they're rolling on this thing and trying to get to some kind of an end way soon.
Sure. So I guess I'd have two things. So before I start on that, let me just speak to what I think I'm hearing from you all is you're talking about strategy and sort of approaching some of these task items with some forethought, such that we know we're here today, we're trying to get here, and there's rhyme and reason to why we would even go down the road with these tasks. Some of these tasks don't really relate to land use, and a master plan is a land use document. And so that's something to keep in mind, is that a master plan document is also much broader. So I don't know that you get to the level of here's where we should put our public works facility, for example. You're simply drawing more bubbles at that level. And so just something to think about, and we can go back and kind of take what we're hearing and think about that. But I thought I'd throw that out there just so that we, are clear, at least from my perspective or experience, with what a master plan document might look like. And then the second thing, what the mayor was referring to, is in Larimer County, there's an incorporated town, is that Winter Park? Or is it?
Estes Park?
Estes Park, thank you. So Estes Park, which is right up against Rocky Mountain National Park, and there was a lot of demand and a lot of growth that was occurring right on the fringes of the incorporated town, not dissimilar from what we're seeing here. And so about 20 years ago or so, they actually went to the legislature and lobbied and got the rule changed such that the county and town can do a joint master plan, and they can also do a joint code. And that's exactly what happened there. And according to the town administrator, it's been working well. It's not without its flaws, but neither is our current process. And so basically how it gets set up is there's a planning commission that gets appointed by I believe it's 4 members from the county that they appoint and 3 members that the town appoints. And then when they make a recommendation, they forward that to the body that has the ability, that's within the jurisdiction. So you can't delegate your police power, but you, so each, the town and or the county, depending upon where it is, makes the final decision, but they're reading from the same sheet of music as the punchline. And so no other arrangement like this is happening in the state that I'm aware of, but I have reached out to them just to get more information. I have looked in statute to verify that, in fact, it's in there. And so it's an opportunity for us, particularly in our 3-mile planning area, where we could have more predictability and more alignment with the 2 governing bodies. And to your point, they're rolling on down the road very quickly with their master plan update. I don't know that we'll get ahead of that between now and April, but that's not to say that we can't talk about a bigger project and a larger, a longer term one, because I think it would, trying to get Eagle County to come along and us to align, there's going to be, or there would be give and take, obviously, with what a final product might look like for.
And Tom's got
for
something.
Those. Yes.
Just a quick comment. What Ryan is talking about there relates very significantly to the Eagle County IGA that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And Eagle County wants to change it, and they've raised legal issues. And from my perspective, I think the next step on that, and I would recommend that we do it sooner rather than later, would be to have a discussion of the legal issues they've raised about the IGA, so that in terms of any negotiations along the lines of what Ryan is talking about, you understand the legal parameters. Now, obviously, it's got huge political implications as well, but I think it would be a good idea if you had a good grounding on the legal issues, and it relates very much to what Ryan's talking about with, going on in Larimer County.
Well, and Boulder Valley did a comprehensive plan.
Okay.
Yeah, they did Boulder Valley did a comprehensive plan between the city and county, and they just updated it in 2015.
Oh, right.
And so, it can be done, and it just needs some political will to do it. And so, because Boulder is a statutory county, and the city of Boulder is not, and so if they can figure it out, Larimer can figure it out, and we should be able to figure it out here. And it's really a bigger vision for the whole area. And it's kind of getting to what Auden and Jackie were talking about is, when you start talking about the urban issues of parking and stuff like that, then you get into the rural issues and what you're trying to achieve. And I think, honestly, I just pulled it up again to make sure that it was still there, because it was there before, but it is, and, it's vision and core values. I mean, it's a really great document. It's 170 pages, and
This is the Boulder one?
yeah. So, I mean, I think we should, if we relook at this letter, I like the P and Z letter. I thought it was great, but if we could add to it this type of visioning, and see if we can push the political will to do that. I think, it could be really interesting to see if we could get Eagle and Pickin on board to do this 3-mile comprehensive plan. So, who knows?
The only other thing I thought about in this 10 or 11 or 12 or whatever it is now is, do we want to try to prioritize within that, or just have it be 12 or 10? I mean, for me, the master plan is way up there, and the vision part, strategic thinking, not strategic plan, but the vision-y, strategic part of doing this whole thing and how we approach it, and let it not be for just through the end of 2018, because really nothing ends here, it goes on. And then the only other thing is, that I heard for sure is that, and I don't know if this needs to be in the 10 group or 12 group, but that we do need to keep track of the housing issue and where exactly we are, and who is the housing for, and all of that. Jen?
So synthesizing what we've put together, we do have some strategic, and then there are some items in here that are tasks. And so I think to maybe have 2 lines of tasks and strategy, just an idea there. And some of them are just naturally unfolding and happening, such as the Whitewater Park, the CDC parcel. There's not a whole lot. We're kind of in a reactive with the CDC parcel. So it's going to fluctuate where its priority is on the list between what is happening globally. So I think, yeah, there are some tasks here, and there are some strategic visioning.
Okay, I think that maybe we just need to have Ryan cook this a little longer, a little more simmer, and come back. But I think that basically the list that you pulled together from our conversations is working for most everybody. There's maybe just a little additional. So, does anybody horribly disagree with that?
No, I think that's right, and I don't want you to feel like panicked by vague strategic guidance. It's the task list and a little more, master plan on steroids, a little more helping us or enabling us to have a vision for where we're headed in 5 years on.
Yeah, and I think, per my earlier statements of, a master plan typically being a land use document, it does have those elements of a vision and a strategy. And so those could translate and be informative for some of the tasks and policies and things that might not necessarily be land use specific, but could be sort of our guide, the direction or the roadmap, as Gary alluded to, that we use to make decisions and go through these types of exercises.
I like that reference, the roadmap idea.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a final? So I guess, is that, other than the executive session, is that pretty much where we're at?
That was it, yeah.
Okay. So I would like to have a 5-minute break before we go into executive session, and if nobody else wants one, I'll be right back.
And Jack, do you want me to just hang out while you talk behind my back?
I guess we could go ahead and go into executive session so that people can.
Right in the cameras and all that.
Yeah, so why don't we get a motion to go into executive session, and I think there's a reference here somebody should read.
Mayor, I move that the town council enter executive session for purposes of discussing personnel matters in accordance with CRS 24-6-4024F.
Second.
Could you go ahead and read the rest of it so we're specific in our motion?
For purposes of, more specifically, review of town attorney Tom Smith.
What, I'll second that. I got a question.
Go ahead.
We're not gonna do this and then bring Tom in and talk to him.
I think
That
we
was
are.
what I was asking.
Yeah.
It's up to you. It's entirely up to you. I just want to know if I
Let's
should.
we'll put a time limit on it, like maybe 30 minutes, and we'll come and tell you if we
Fine.
need a lot more time. How's that? That
I'll
way,
be out
if in reality we can't get it done, then we let him, we cut us all loose. Okay, all in favor of going into an executive session? Aye. Opposed? Right.